Very good morning, dear participants of this faculty development program. I'm very happy to greet you at this moment of my presentation. Before we get into the concerned topic, which has been allotted to me, I congratulate all of you for participating in this faculty development program organized by SGM College Karad, an autonomous college under UGC HRD Savitribai Phule, Pune University, Pune. Since all of you know that it is one of the important prerequisite conditions for the CAS when we are seeking academic advancement in terms of monetary benefits, we need to fulfill certain conditions that have been laid by the University Grants Commission and HRD Ministry, Government of India. And the participants who are in the process of applying for this CAS, this particular FDP program would definitely help you. So I extend a warm welcome to all of you. This faculty development program that we have organized, it has gone through a series of discussions about defining the topic on which we are to organize this particular FDP. So after having thoughtful thought processes, we unanimously decided to define this research methodology and data analysis. Since all of you know that in the pretext of NAC, in the pretext of higher education, in the pretext of senior college, in the pretext of the academic development, it is important that we all teachers should be involved in the various research pursuits. And taking this into account, we have defined this FDP program on research methodology and data analysis. Now, the topic which I'm going to deliver today is research project writing. Right from the day 1 to day 6, there are going to be different sessions that would be addressing different facets of you can say research, data analysis, and various experts from across the state, even across the nation. They would be visiting on this platform, and we will be definitely benefited by their deliberations on the topic of research methodology and data analysis. The topic which has been given to me is research project writing. So before I get into my presentation, I would like to introduce myself. This is Dr. Kalyanshetti. I'm a Dean Academics of this college. I also work as Director, Internal Quality Assurance Cell. I also have the responsibility of Coordinator of Autonomous College, Sadhguru Gadge Maharaj College, Karad, and Autonomous College. The topic which I'm going to cover in this presentation, that introduction to research project. So when we are pursuing any of the project, any of the research work in terms of PhD, in terms of MPhil, in terms of minor project or major project, so we have to have some preliminary understanding about this research project. So in the first phase, I will be introducing the research project to you. Then we will be highlighting on two important aspects, that is writing literature review and citation and references style. So these are the two topics that I will be highlighting more along with this research project. So when we think about any of the research work, in terms of PhD, in terms of PhD thesis, MPhil dissertation, major project, minor research project, there are certain things that comprise of the body. So when we are to think about organization of chapters, so this is what is the basic, you can say, body of the research work, or in terms of research project, PhD thesis, or dissertation. So as the scope of the topic depends, likewise the chapter would be defined. But basically, when we go through all the different research work of PhDs and MPhil, we normally come across certain fundamental chapter scheme. So chapter 1, it is introduction. So this is the most important topic or chapter that each and every researcher should focus on. And it is expected that the researcher should cover up certain important facets of the PhD work or MPhil work or any of the minor research work. So the chapter entitled Introduction should comprise of background, problem statement, research objectives, significance of study, scope of study, theoretical and conceptual framework. The first chapter introduces all the necessary things, all the related things about the PhD work or dissertation or research work. So in this context, we are just concentrating on research project. So when we have carried out the research on a particular topic, and when we sit to prepare the chapter scheme, so we need to have the proper planning regarding the chapter scheme. And the chapter number 1 is introduction, and this chapter should include these aspects: background. The researcher should specify the background of the research work. He should specify the problem statement that he has worked on. He has to define the research objectives for which he has carried out the research work. He has to clarify the significance of the study, as well as the scope of study and theoretical and conceptual framework. So these are the topics that should be there in the first introductory chapter called Introduction. So when we are now defining the title, normally there are certain things that are maintained by the research scholars and the, you can say, experts, that when we are defining the chapter title, it should be done in capital letters. So you all find that the first chapter, Introduction, is in capital letters. Second chapter, Literature Review. The third chapter, Research Methodology. The fourth chapter, Results and Discussion. And the fifth one is Conclusion and Recommendation. And finally, all these 5 chapters would be followed by references and appendix. So when we are defining the title, we should keep in mind that the title of the chapter should be drafted or should be crafted by using the capital letters. So the first chapter should include background, problem statement, research objectives, significance of study, scope of study, theoretical or conceptual framework. And the second chapter that I'll be highlighting more is literature review. So normally, when we are pursuing any of the research work in terms of major project, minor project, PhD work, it is important for the researchers to undertake the related literature, review of related literature that we entitle as literature review. So what is the significance of this literature review? Because the research process or research work is an interesting activity. It all depends upon the scope of the topic that you are selected for. Normally, when we are going for a research project, minor research project, the time duration that has been allocated to that particular project is around 2 years. And depending upon the scope in terms of PhD thesis, in PhD work or MPhil thesis, naturally it is extended by 4 years, 5 years. It all depends upon the scope. So the second chapter, that is literature review, is a very important chapter in which the researcher has to take the review of all the related literature addressing the particular topic that the researcher has gone through in the process of research. So chapter 2, it is literature review. Chapter 3 is research methodology. So when the researcher has done the work, when he is drafting the work in terms of the chapter, he has to define the research methodology. Which methodology the researcher has applied in studying the particular aspect, in studying the particular problem, in studying the particular issue. So in the third chapter, the researcher has to highlight on the research methodology. The chapter number 4 is results and discussion. So when you specify literature review, when you specify research methodology, after that, the researcher has to put his results and discussion that have been extracted after having completed the research work, after having applied the research methodology. So results and discussion, that is chapter number 4, and chapter number 5 is conclusion and recommendation. So after having neatly defined the topic, after having neatly defined the area, after having defined neatly the background, after having defined the objectives of research, the researcher in the final concluding chapter should give certain conclusion or should draw certain conclusion, and he or she is to give recommendation to the concerned bodies, concerned agencies, concerned seats that would take this particular study into account and take the appropriate decisions to solve the particular problem. So conclusion and recommendation is the important chapter in which the researcher has to specify his conclusions that he has drawn after having a careful study of a particular problem. And finally, we have the two important, bodies called references and appendix. So this is what normally is considered as the body of a research work when we are drafting a research work in terms of a major project, minor project, PhD thesis, or any of dissertation. So this is normally considered the proper chapter scheme: introduction, literature review, research methodology, results and discussion, conclusion and recommendation. Now, introduction to research project. When we are thinking about research project, now we all know the University Grant Commission has ceased to allocate the research projects, but along with UGC, we have n number of agencies, n number of schools, n number of universities, n number of foreign institutes that offer these research projects in terms of minor research project or major research project. So when we are going for any of the research project, it is important to have the proper planning for our research. If the proper planning is not done, our research is going to be wavered. Our research is going to be useless. Our research work is going to be misleading, because it is going to be a continuous process for about 2 years. When we select the particular problem, we need to have certain understanding, certain assumption that this is the problem that we need to solve. And then when we apply our mind, when we apply our, intellectual logistics, we come across certain mind-boggling thoughts related to settle the particular problem. So the most important thing before we take on any of the research work, it is planning. Planning our research work. Well, what is the problem that I will be focusing on? What is the significance of the problem? What is the need of the particular the solution to the problem? So after having gone through the series of thoughtful processes, one has to have the proper planning of our research work. And once we define the research, and once we define the research work, we have to define the research method. So what would be the research methods that I would be applying in studying the particular problem so that I can draw the reliable, validating conclusions that I will be presenting in the chapter number 5 called Conclusion and Recommendation. So we need to have some kind of preliminary understanding about the research work to be undertaken, the time duration that the research work that would consume, then our mindset, our resources. So all those, because when we are pursuing any of the research, we need to be ensuring the various resources available to us. Because if we fall short of the resources, naturally, they would come across kind of disturbances that would mislead the research work. So we need to ensure the proper atmosphere. We need to ensure the proper surrounding. We need to ensure the proper resources in terms of libraries, in terms of reading resources, in terms of primary sources, in terms of secondary sources. So all of these things, in a very fundamental manner, we need to have a proper planning regarding the research method. We need to make a research outline, because research work that you are going to undertake for about 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So naturally, if you have a proper outline, so how you are going to design your research work, how you are going to apply your research work, how you're going to apply the research methodology, So we need to prepare the research outline. We need to also make a plan related to data collection, because when we are going for any of the research work over a particular problem, so we fall short of the data. So we need to make a plan regarding the data collection, because unless we have a proper validating data, we cannot work on that. Because once we have the substantial data of the related problem, naturally one can work on it. Naturally, one can apply the proper methodology to it and draw the analysis or make an analysis. So research outline, data collection, analysis, and quality testing. So these are the prerequisite aspects that should be there in the beginning of the research work. That should be there in the journey of a research work. The research outline, data collection and analysis, and quality testing. Defining your research. This is something that is considered something, you can say confusing, because when we are going for a research, so many things come to our mind, and there are certain moments where the researchers go through the moments of despondency. So they may have some kind of confusion, they may have some kind of doubt. So we have to be very clear what I am to do, how I am to do. If we think about certain, for certain time, for certain occasion, we get certain ideas from ourselves. So defining our research work. So we have to have some preliminary things to be clear about our research work, background reading. Because unless we know the background of the problem, we cannot build the body on it. So it is important for the researcher to have a background reading. He or she should develop the organizational context. He or she should think about the research methods and data collection. And finally, he or she has to ensure certain WH question or yes/no type question. The researcher should always ask question to himself, particularly when we are to begin any of the research work, and there at that time we need to put certain questions to ourselves. Is it possible for me? You think about your ability, the inner voice. Is it possible for me to do it? Yes. Is it possible within the time scale, the time that you have set for the research work? Is it possible that you would conform to that particular time scale? Do you have the resources available? And ensure that it meets the requirements of the degree. Means you are going for a PhD degree, you are going for an MPhil degree, or if you're going for any of the monetary advancement under CAS. So we have to have certain vision about this, ensuring that it meets the requirements of the degree. So background reading is important. We need to go through various resources in terms of magazines, articles, newspapers, on the internet. So whatever the available sources that are there, we have to seek the information about the problem that we are going to focus on as a problem. So we need to have a proper background reading. We need to visit the libraries. We need to visit the schools. We need to go through the internet. We need to go through the online books, offline books. So we have to have this important process before you take on the research work. So background reading. We need to develop the organizational context. We have to think about the research method to be applied to the research problem. We need to have the clear idea about the data collection. And we need to put certain questions about ourselves. Is it possible for me to do this work? Is it possible for me to do this work within the time scale? Do I have the resources available in terms of magazine, in terms of articles, in terms of e-resources, in terms of primary sources, secondary sources? So we have to have this particular surety that I have all the resources that would help me in my research work. And I should ensure that it meets the requirement of the degree. Reading for research. Why it is important for us to have a background reading? And particularly when we are reading specifically for research, we have to build the background knowledge and establish context. We need to have the establishment of state of the art, identify the gap and establishing the research objective or question, accounts of research method being applied in ways which are similar to your own plan. Reading for research, build background reading, build background knowledge, establish context, establish the state of the art atmosphere, state of the art understanding, state of the art of surrounding, identify the gap and establishing the research objective or question, accounts of research method being applied in ways which are similar to your own plans. The research outline. So the moment ago I referred to research outline. So when we are pursuing any research work, now we have to have a proper planning in which we would be drafting the outline. And there are some questions that we need to answer, and those answers should be comprised in the outline. What are you going to study? There are a number of problems. What exactly are you going to study? This is the question we need to put to ourselves before you take on the research work. What are you going to study? Why are you going to study? What is the purpose? What is the reason for that particular work, for that particular problem to be considered? What research methods and techniques you will use if you select one particular problem, if you select one particular issue? So how you will be studying it? What methods you will be applying? Are you going to apply analytical method? Are you going to apply statistical method? Are you going to apply an experimental method? So all of these methods, we need to be clear about the problem that we have selected for our research work. So what research methods and techniques we will use, where will you collect the information from? We require information about the related problem, about the related topic, about the related issue, about the related matter. So from where we are going to collect the information? How will you collect the information? Because information will be coming to you in bulk manner. And how you are going to codify that information? What techniques you would apply for codification of the information coming from various sources, coming from my books, coming from journals, coming from articles, coming from internet. So we need to devise a proper technique in encoding the information that we collect from various sources. How are you going to analyze the information? Whatever the information that you have sought, whatever the information that you have collected from various sources, how you are going to utilize that? How you are going to analyze that? How long will it take to perform each stage of your research? There are going to be certain stages: the preliminary stage, the middle stage, and the end stage. Normally, these are the normally this is a sequence of our research work: the beginning, middle, end. In the beginning, we are supposed to prepare, be clear about all the necessary information, about the related information. Then the second, the most important, in which you actually work, the middle. And these phases, all these three phases, the first, the second, and the final. The how long will it take to perform each stage of your research? What will be the final dissertation look like? I mean, every researcher should have an image in his mind about the research work that would be a finished project, that would be a finished product after 2 years, after 3 years, after 4 years, after 5 years. Means the researcher should have an image, the mental image in his mind, that how his dissertation, how his research work, how his you can say PhD thesis would look like. Accordingly, he should go on shaping the matter. He would go on shaping the content. So these are certain WH questions that should be answered in the research outline. What are you going to study? Why are you going to study the problem? What research methods and techniques you will be using? From where you will be collecting information? How will you collect the information? How will you be codifying the information? How are you going to analyze the information? How long it will take to perform each stage of your research? And what will be the final dissertation look like? So all these things should be reflected in our research outline. Data collection strategy. When we are pursuing research, we normally need or require data. And data collection, we have to devise certain strategies. The type of data to collect. What kind of data do I require in order to comply with my objectives of my research work? Type of data to collect. Do I need the quantitative data or I need qualitative data? The primary sources, the original thing on which your research work dwells is a primary. Suppose if as a teacher of English, if I am to study, or study and analyze the dramatic techniques employed by a dramatist, so I will be having the text. I will be having the drama as the text that I would consider as a primary. You can say a primary data. And secondary data are the references. There are the body of writings addressing the primary sources. We have journals, articles, newspapers, cuttings, citations, interviews, biographies, autobiographies. So all of these are that fall under the secondary sources. So primary sources are the text or the matter. The secondary are the related, you can say, work of the particular primary source. How to collect the data? There are n number of ways to collect the data. I would collect the data if I am going for a statistical analysis. I require data in terms of quantitative. You can see I would get the data through observation. I would prepare if I am to quantify and compare and contrast the work. I require the data that I would consider from questionnaire. So I would collect the data through observation, questionnaires, interviews, documentary evidences, experiments, archives. So these are the various ways through which we can collect our data: through observation, through questionnaire, interviews, documentary evidence, experiments, and archives. Convergence of multiple sources of evidence. But we require fact, archival record, open-ended interviews, observation, direct observation, direct and participant, structured interview, open-ended interviews, documents. So these are the multiple sources of evidence we can rely on regarding the fact. What is the actual fact that we will be concentrating on? Archival record, open-ended interviews, observation, structured interviews, open-ended interviews, documents. Data analysis method. So when we collect the data from various sources, how we are going to analyze it? Tabulate the data. We need to put the data in the tabular form that we call tabulating the data. Tabulate the data, organize into categories, apply analytical method, quantitative data. We can draw the graphs, trends. By using the graphs, we can show the trend, the rising trend, the falling trend, the fall-rise trend. Now, there are various tools. These are all tools: graphs, trends, statistical methods, qualitative data, coding, successive approximation, cognitive mapping, analytical comparison, ideal types. So these are the methods that we will be applying in our data analysis. The first thing, we have to tabulate the data. Second, we have to organize our data into categories. We have to analyze that particular method, analytical method, quantitative data, graphs we can use, trends we can use, statistical methods we can apply, qualitative data, coding, etc. Now, the topic which I'll be focusing more comprehensively in the presentation is literature review. Often it is observed that the researcher, when he or she is pursuing a research work, he or she slightly, you can say, belittles the importance of this particular chapter, that is literature review. It is done as a matter of, you can say, work, as a matter of protocols, but it has a very important significance. So writing the literature review, what in short we call LR. What does this LR do? What is the importance of this literature review? Why we have to take the literature review? Is there a need for literature review? What role does it play in our research work? So all these possible questions I will be answering. I'll be trying to answer in my presentation. This LR, literature review, discusses published information in a particular subject area, and sometimes information in a particular subject area within a certain time period. What is this? LR, literature review. Some people call it review of related literature. Some people call it literature review. So whatever the nomenclature be, this literature review discusses published information in a particular area. Suppose you have chosen one area, you have chosen one author, you have chosen one particular issue for your research. We need to ensure what are the works that have been done so far addressing the particular topic, so that your research work should not be a repetition. So literature review discusses the published information in a particular subject area, and sometimes information in a particular subject area within a certain time period. It can be just a simple summary of sources, but usually it has an organizational pattern and combines both summary and synthesis. What is LR? What is literature review? A summary is a recap of the important information of the source, but a synthesis is a reorganization or a reshuffling of that information. It might give a new interpretation of old material or combine new with old interpretation, or it might trace the intellectual progression of the field, including major debates. And depending on the situation, the literature review may evaluate the sources and advise the reader on the most pertinent or relevant. So this is the significance of literature review. What is that? It is a summary. It's a summary recap of important information of the source. But a synthesis is a reorganization, reshuffling of that information. It might give a new interpretation of old material, or combine new with old interpretations, or it might trace the intellectual progression of the field, including major debates. And depending upon the situation, the literature review may evaluate the sources and advise the reader on the most pertinent or relevant. So LR is an effective evaluation of selected documents on a research topic. What is this? Effective evaluation of selected documents on a research topic. It is a review. A review may vary from essential part of the research process or may constitute a research project in itself. In the context of a research paper or a PhD thesis, the literature review is critical synthesis of previous research. It is a critical synthesis of the previous research. If you are, whatever the topic you have selected, whatever the matter you have selected for your research, whatever the issue that you have selected for yourself, for your research, we need to ensure what kind of research work has been done so far on the topic you are about to research. So that we have to ensure. And the way to ensure that is literature review, because it builds the critical synthesis of previous research. And the evaluation, we are not simply seeking information that this is the researcher, he has done the work on this particular and he has drawn the conclusion that will be simply, you can say, mentioning in that particular chapter. No, we are evaluating it. We as a researcher, we will be evaluating it. We will be building the synthesis of that research work which has already been carried. And the evaluation of the literature leads to logical conclusion to the research problem. And this evaluation of the literature leads logically to the research question. The objectives of research. Why? What are the objectives that we keep it for ourselves before you take on any research? To study the factors that influence the customer satisfaction. To study the relationship of X and Y. Similarly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, depending upon your area, depending upon the scope. The objectives of research. Why write LR? Why there is a need to write LR in our research work? Literature reviews provide us with a handy guide on a particular topic. If you have the body of the research work which has already been carried so far globally, internationally, it would be as a kind of handy material, handy guide to all of us on a particular topic. If we have limited time to conduct research, literature reviews can give us an overview or act as a stepping stone. Literature reviews also provide a solid background for a research paper's investigation. And comprehensive knowledge of the literature of the field is essential to most research papers. The purpose of literature review is for you to take a critical look at the literature, the facts and views. Previously, the researchers across the globe selecting a particular topic that you have chosen for yourself, it would help you take a critical look at the literature as facts and views that already exist in the area you are researching. A literature review is not a shopping list of everything that exists. It is not something that you are simply collecting it from various sources and you are representing them as they are in your chapter. No. A literature review is not a shopping list of everything that exists, but a critical analysis that shows an evaluation of the existing literature and relationship between different works. It demonstrates the relevance of the research. So this is the purpose of LR. It is not only the compilation of the facts. It is not only the documentation of facts. It is not only the representation of the facts of the work already completed, but is a critical analysis which includes an evaluation of the existing literature and relationship between the different works. It demonstrates the relevance of the research. And literature, it can include books, journals, articles, internet, electronic journals, newspapers, magazines, theses, dissertations, conference proceedings, reports, and documentaries. So whatever the literature that you are reviewing on the selected topic includes books, journals, articles, e-references, e-tools, e-books, e-magazines, thesis, dissertation, conference proceeding, etc. And literature reviews are written occasionally in humanities. It is observed, literature reviews, though they are slightly touched upon, though the researcher slightly touches upon the body of the researcher who have already studied and undertaken the research work on the topic the researcher is doing on. So literature reviews are written occasionally in the humanities, but mostly in the sciences and social sciences, in experiment and lab reports. They constitute a section of the paper. In physical sciences, in life sciences, in sciences, social sciences, it is an integral part of the research work, that is literature review. In the context of a research paper on a thesis, literature review provides a background to the study being proposed. The background may consider one or more of the following aspects, depending on the research question being posed. Theoretical background of the problem you have selected, the past, the present, and the future. The clinical practice, the previous or contemporary. Methodology, research methods, sorry, previous findings, rationale and relevance of the current study, rationalizing the significance of the problem that we have selected for our research work should be defined, the rationale of it, enhancing and acquiring the subject vocabulary, understanding the structure of the subject, relating ideas and theory to applications, identifying methodologies and techniques that have been used, placing the research in a historical context to show familiarity with the state-of-the-art developments. Means we have to have the rationale, the significance of the problem that we are discussing, the problem that we have selected for our research work. It should be of some significance, and the rationale of which we have to define. Enhancing, acquiring the subject vocabulary, understanding the structure of the subject, relating ideas and theory to applications, identifying methodology and techniques that have been used, and placing the research in a historical context. What should I do before writing this LR? As a researcher, if I am to write this chapter called Literature Review, what I should be doing? What I should do before I sit and write my LR chapter? Clarify. We have to clarify ourselves. What if your assignment is not specific? If your work is not specific, seek clarification from your supervisor under whom you are pursuing your research. Expert. If you are just working on a research project, you have available, you can say, expertise. You just consult them. You seek clarification from these experts. Roughly, how many sources should you include? What type of sources? The primary source and secondary source I told you. What type of sources? Books, journals, articles, websites that you refer to Should you summarize, synthesize, or critique your sources by discussing a common theme or issue? We have to clarify to ourselves. It is a self-clarification. We need to put a question. If my assignment is not specific, if I think I should seek clarification from my experts, from my supervisor, I should be clear about my sources that I am to include in my chapter, what types of sources that I'll be including. I should clarify about the summarization, whether I have done summary of the sources that I refer to. Have I synthesized the sources? I had to clarify. Have I critically evaluated the sources by the discussion? Should you evaluate your sources? Should you provide subheadings and other background information, such as definition or history? What should you write? The accepted facts in the area. When we are writing, actually writing, what I should focus on? The popular opinion, the main variables, the relationship between the concepts and variables, shortcomings in the existing findings, limitations in the methods used, the relevance of research, suggestions for further research in the area. And the next important topic that I'll be slightly touching upon is citation and references. We all, as the teachers of various subjects, are quite familiar with these terms, citation. Nowadays, we talk about high index, H index, citations. So citation and reference type. Citations reflect the careful and thorough work you have put into locating and exploring your sources. Citations are a courtesy to the reader. No, it is just a courtesy to the reader who may share your interest in a particular area of your scholarship. By citing sources, you demonstrate your integrity and skill as a responsible participant in the conversation of scholarship. And failure to this, provide adequate citation, constitutes plagiarism. If you do not do it, it is illegal from academic point of view, and it is the act of plagiarism. So it is important that when the researcher is working on a research work in terms of research project or thesis or dissertation, he or she should give citations. He should cite and references that he or she has used during the research work. Because we have to acknowledge, we are not going to claim those pronouncements. We are not supposed to claim those conclusions drawn by the researchers. We have to be obedient enough. We have to be sincere enough. We have to be patient enough. We have to be, humble enough to acknowledge. It's a matter of acknowledgement because it shows our integrity. It shows the gentlefulness. So the failure of this leads to the act of plagiarism. Now, there are various ways, and we all know that there is an APA style. The American Psychological Association has come out with certain styles. It's called APA style. For example, book. If it is a book written by one author, what is normally the format? It is the style of giving citation or citing the references. When we are referring to or when we are citing the book which I have used, I have referred to in my research work, if it is written by one author, there is a format. The surname of the author, it should begin with a surname, comma, followed by the first name, full stop, followed by the last name. It is followed by year of publication to be kept in the round bracket. Year of publication, title of the book, and the scripting of the title of the book should be in italic. Followed by publisher, name of the publication, edition, number, if any. For example, Shipley. For example, Shipley is the name of the author, the surname, followed by the first name, WC. The year of publication, the book in 1986, Shipley Institute of Living Scale. This is the title of the book. It should be in italic. Then publisher, town of publication, edition, number. Shipley, WC 1986, Shipley Institute of Living Scale, McGrew Hill, Los Angeles, 3rd edition. So if you are citing the book you have referred to and that is written by one author, this is the way to write the citation. If we are citing the book that is published in a chapter, as a chapter, format is given: surname, first name, year, title of the topic of chapter taken, title of the book, italic, publisher, town of publication, edition, number, if any. Cohen, J.W., 2009, Militarization of Culture in 18th Century China. This is the chapter in the book, that is in ND Cosmo edition, Military Culture in Empirical China, Massachusetts, Harvard University Press. Encyclopedia, if you are referred to encyclopedia during the course of your research work, we have to give a citation of the encyclopedia. Format: surname, first name, year of publication, title, name of the encyclopedia, volume, page, town of publication, publisher. Bergman, PG, 2009, Relativity in the New Encyclopedia Britannica, volume 26, page number PP, Chicago Encyclopedia Britannica. Article in journal. If you have cited the article appeared in the journal, this is how it should be cited. Format: surname, followed by first name, last name, year of publication, title of journal article, name of the journal, volume, edition, paging. Prato, F, J. John, OP, and Zumalia, N. 1991. Automatic vigilance. The attention-grabbing power of negative social science, research information. Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, 61. Article from internet. If you have referred to the internet sources, if you are while browsing your articles or related articles of the topic, if you are cited the article from internet, this is how it should be done. Author, group name, year of establishment of the website, title of the article, source of information, date of visiting the site, full address of the website. Means we have to give that link, full address of the website, halal cosmetics, a new way of ethical lifestyle, International Halal Integrity Alliance 2010, retrieved on 14th October 2010 from. Here you'll be specifying the link of that particular website on which you have cited or you have referred to that particular article. Journal or article from a database. Surname, followed by first name, followed by year, title of the article, name of the journal or article, which is to be in italic, volume, that is the issue, source of information, date and year of visiting the site, address of source. Example, Belato A 2010, mass fluid viscosity sensor, IEEE, transactions on ultrasonic, ferroelectronics and frequency control, 57.3, retrieved August 10, 2010 from IEEE Explorer database. If you are referred to any government or company document, this is the style to refer to. Format, department, year, title of document, place or country. For example, Ministry of Human Resources, Labor and Human Resources, Statistics, Putturaja, WP, Malaysia. Newspaper or non-scientific article, surname, first name, year, month, date of sources taken, italic, name of the newspaper, magazine, Skuman M 2010, July 12, the lost continent, time 176. So this is what I just shared to you. I hope that whatever the thing that I have shared to you would be definitely helpful to you. And if you got any of the doubts, you can simply put those questions and doubts and email to the coordinator, and we will have a discussion about it. So I hope that the session must have been interesting to you, and it was really a great pleasure to address this particular topic. Though I am the teacher of English, I belong to the humanities, but there are certain, I can say, things which I have learned during the course of my presentation. So I extend a warm sense of thankfulness towards the college, the coordinator, Dr. A.K. Patil, who has given me this opportunity to address one of the sessions. So it was indeed a great pleasure being with you, and I hope that you are enjoying this FDP program, and hope that we will definitely meet in the times to come offline. And I would, and in the end, I would request all of you, wherever you are, you take care of yourself, and as you all maintain. But it is my duty and responsibility too to tell you to take care of yourself, take care of members of the family, and observe all the norms that have been laid down by the government of India, government of Maharashtra, and related to this COVID-19. So may this COVID era, black era of COVID come to an end soon, and let us, we will begin the morning afresh with all the energy, with all the fun, with all the love, with all the happiness, and be with our students. So I wish you good luck, and I hope that you are enjoying. So thank you very much.